And just look straight into the camera?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Silly first question, but can you say and spell your first and last name for us?
My legal name or?
What you're known by.
Okay, yeah. So my name is Ricky Williams, RickYWilliams.
My name is Chris Ball, ChrisBall.
No relation to the Ball family of Chino Hills.
No relation to the Ball families of Chino Hills. Growing up as a young football player, Ricky Williams was somebody that I idolized. It was somebody that I looked at and was like, wow.
Williams breaks a hole. Williams, hello record book. Ricky Williams runs to the Hall of Fame, cuts back. Ricky Williams, touchdown!
Williams trying to get wide. Ricky Williams, touchdown, Texas. So you expect the run, and you get it with Ricky Williams. Up the middle of the field. Ricky Williams, touchdown, Texas.
I can't let you down.
People say football is the ultimate team game. Each of us develop our own abilities from our own experiences in life, and we show up on a team to contribute everything we've learned to some goal that we all share.
What's about to come down? Or we cutting down? We're cutting down 7, right?
We're cutting down.
What comes down next?
And I feel like Chris has had his varied experiences, and a lot of them had to do with football. I've had my experiences, and we both kind of come to the same conclusion, and now we're putting like minds together to see if we can amplify what this message is.
Are you ready?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, brothers, come on. Come on into the Laura Charles room right here.
Lord Charles, huh?
Laura Charles.
Yeah.
Let's go see Lady
good.
Laura. My first year of going out there and playing football, I think I was 8 years old. I had passion, I had athletic ability, but I didn't know the X's and the O's. Well, it was the same thing for cannabis. I had the location, I had the plants, but I didn't really know the X's and O's, so it took me about a year of growing and failing, and all of those failures wind up equaling up to success.
It smells so good in here, right?
Yeah, man. I love it. This girl's been with us for about 4 years.
Yeah.
So she's definitely a fan favorite. I'll tell you one thing, man, I'll never forget is when me and Rick finally did reconnect at Hall of Flowers this past year, first thing he said to me was, yo, man, I'm a fan. And it's crazy because that was the first thing I said to him 10 years ago when I'm like, yo, man, I'm a fan.
We both share a mutual friend, rest in peace, D. Russ. Daryl Russell grew up in San Diego, went to USC, played in the NFL, and had his own issues in the NFL drug program, and unfortunately, died early in a car accident.
I believe our first interaction through my big brother Daryl Russell, rest in peace, there was purpose in that way back then.
And Chris and I have always connected because we were both really close to D. Russ, and we saw how being in the NFL's drug program really hurt him and really affected his life in a negative way.
I believe my journey and his journey was very deliberate, and I believe it led us our paths to cross again for this moment.
I bumped into Chris. It was like old friends meeting, and we met back up and started sharing our past and how we got here, and realized we have so much in common and we have the same goal, so let's see what we can do together.
All the nutrients is already in there, so the plant kind of takes what it needs when it needs it, my journey with cannabis obviously started with my football career.
We are off.
When I got to the CFL, this is where I first saw cannabis from seed to harvest, and that's when I fell in love, with the process and with the plant. It was my trafficking of the plant back here to the United States is how I wind up catching my felony, catching my indictment in 2010. So,
to me, the way I look at it is all of the struggles are what define our journey. Like in all the movies and the myths, when the hero overcomes the struggle, they've learned something about themselves. And that piece of knowledge is what they need to know where to go next and to keep moving forward.
Plant life is pretty much the same. When they're young and you're in your year 1 and year 2, she's thriving. They're just kicking out super weight, kicking out super expression. To see his career get taken away from him because he indulged in a plant that was actually good for him. It touches me in a way that makes me want to help, that makes me want to be involved with him.
When I left the NFL and the struggles really started, I just kept overcoming them and seeing where they led me next, and they led me here, starting my own brand in Southern California.
For my cannabis to be able to move him the way that it does, and for him to want to collaborate with me, I think it's a tremendous opportunity for us to come together and kind of tell our stories about how sports and cannabis has kind of led our lives up until this point.
Like you said, I was already there, and now it's kind of flipped because I'm stepping into this space. And again, I look around and I see what Chris is doing, and like, it's impressive. It's impressive. When I left the NFL and the stigma was all over me, I had a question I had to answer. I say, do I wrestle this stigma, or do I like live the life that I know I can live, and I change it? I create a different story. And so where the story was that cannabis ruined my life, I said, I'm gonna try to live in a way where I see that cannabis saved my life.
Just depends on the variety. Some varieties like to go straight up,
Yeah.
you know, so we gotta kind of keep forcing them to go out, you know?
You know, as I'm walking around here and I see on Chris's packaging, you know, cultivating the culture. And this is what I'm saying. It's about building, growing a culture, not defending against, you know, the old regime. But it's about creating a culture that's about greatness and taking care of each other and high quality, pun intended.
You know, when I was locked up, I never saw myself owning a cannabis brand. When I was locked up, I actually was asking myself, how did I let this happen and that my life was over? Two older gentlemen that were very familiar with my case, you know, approached me in the library and they asked me, hey, Chris, you know, why were you, you know, selling so much cannabis for somebody else? You know, I kind of looked at them funny and I said, well, what do you mean? So we sat there and broke down the numbers of what I was making for selling the product for someone else, as opposed to what I would have been making had I been growing it for myself. And at that moment, sitting in prison, the light bulb went off. So, you know, right when we get to this point, this is when we know we'll probably come in and just pinch a little bit off the top so they spread out even more. Yeah. And then they'll pull them out of this soil and they'll put them in their little pots and put them in their big pots.
When do you do your first pinch? At this size or?
At this size.
Yeah, I was going to say these are already split.
Yeah.
Once we see how we are the cause of all of the things in our lives that aren't working for us, then we can recognize that we can be the cause of everything working better for us. And so the first thing is to look in the mirror and say, how can I improve what's not going well in my life?
When you grow boutique and you scale it, it takes more human interaction. You can't automate everything, right? The plants are living, breathing organisms, so they need living, breathing hands and touch and CO2. Every plant ain't the same. Once I get out of here, you know, I'm gonna try to do this the correct way and I'm gonna try to grow it for myself. But it taught me a lot. It taught me discipline. You know, I ate a lot of humble pie, as you can imagine, from going from professional athlete to drug kingpin to Abercrombie & Fitch store manager folding t-shirts, till eventually I was told about the social equity program in 2018 and Ball Family Farms was born.
Right back to Ronnie Brownie, hands to Ricky Williams, there he goes! He's going all the way! 51 yards, touchdown Ricky Williams!
Anything is possible, and we start to get the insight we need to move our lives in a direction that feels better to us. And I'm only saying that from my personal experience. I was a professional football player, but I was unhappy. I started consuming cannabis, and I started reflecting and saying, maybe it's not all the people in my life's fault that I'm not happy. Maybe it's something in here.
Williams, running left, touchdown.
So football has kind of, you know, in a sense, gotten me here. If I wasn't, you know, chasing around my football dreams, I never would have landed over in Canada. You know, I never would have, you know, got my first ounce of weed to sell in junior college so that I could just put myself through school so that I continue to play football, and I probably wouldn't be sitting here today talking to you.
And with that awareness, you know, slowly I built the courage to pursue my true passion. Walked away from the NFL and I started to have richer experiences in life. And I was fortunate enough that the NFL begged me to come back, and I was able to continue my career, but in a way that was more fulfilling to me.
And I knew why Ricky was smoking. A lot of athletes knew why Ricky was smoking, but it was just unfortunate that the NFL had to make an example out of someone like him. I'm looking at it like a tremendous opportunity for us to come out and show the world something, teach the world something about the plant, teach the world something about how his mind was working back then.
At the time, what I wasn't comfortable sharing with was how I was achieving that success, what my inner process was like. And it had a lot to do with cannabis. Heisman is on a superficial level, it's cannabis in sports, but my journey in sports really led me to improving myself beyond just sports. Do you think boutique can ever scale to commercial? Or
It can. It just takes, the person growing or the company doing that, they kind of have to be more concerned with quality over quantity, and they got to be concerned with quality over dollars.
Yeah.
We are strength in numbers. I've been a firm believer in that. It's the reason why I partnered up with Al Harrington, 2 years ago with Viola. I'm following that same protocol with Ricky.
Chris and I are both African Americans, and we're both head of a cannabis company. He has a head start in understanding this industry and this business. So it's me coming into this space and wanting to be successful. I'm looking to him for mentorship and guidance and help, and I'm able to share whatever insights I can. See, I think this is the importance of African Americans in positions of leadership.
Absolutely, brother. I know a lot of kids, man, from the inner city that, that's the first thing that they've learned. Somebody's put a bag of weed in their hand or put something else in their hand. So, why can't I put, some botany in their hand? There are thousands and thousands of other Chris Balls sitting in prison right now. I am one of those people, right? But fortunately for me, I was given this opportunity. And you see, if given the opportunity, what I've been able to do with it. Just go get some of these guys who are locked up, who had that same type of success that I had, and just bring them out and give them a chance to rehabilitate themselves and plug them into this legal framework and watch them grow.
For me, being honest, there needs to be an educational piece where we're helping people catch up and fill in those opportunities. And what I'm learning as a businessman in this industry is necessary.
We'll pick the best 3 or 4, right? Okay, boom, we got them numbers. We'll do the same thing with the next section and so forth and so on. Teach, young people of color how to get into this new business. Or maybe you can go to school and be a cultivation specialist or a director of cultivation.
I'd like to think that what we're creating right now is really planting the seeds and tending to them so that what comes into the future is something we can all be proud of.
Cultivate the culture, baby, from the ground up. Let's keep it healthy.
Appreciate you, Chris.